It's Friday. It's 7 p.m. It's Talk Radio Europe. I'm Dom Aldworth, and this is the Friday Night Sports Bar.
And the game is over now, obviously, mate. Oh, County Champions and anyone ever. What a victory. Oh, my God, that'll be a big night in the Glen. I think I feel like getting sick.
Lo scambia ancora con Alberto, ultimi scenari, rigore, Mirko,
Oh, no! Oh, my God, no! Come on, no! Oh, God! God bless those teardrops. I'm sick. I want to throw up.
This is Talk Radio Europe. Your voice in Spain. I'm Dom Aldworth, and this is the Friday Night Sports Bar. Coming up over the next hour, the greatest football manager the world has ever seen calls time on his managerial career. Farewell, Sir Alex. Spanish Grand Prix and Sebastian Vettel tops the times in Barcelona free practice. And it's semi-final action as the business end of the domestic rugby leagues, the Rabo Pro 12 Direct, and the Aviva Premiership kicks off this weekend. Richard Tilsley in the studio with me this evening. Rich, good evening, but no Stuart Joseph.
Are you surprised?
Well, he must be hiding somewhere.
No, I think it's probably after Wednesday's result. You know, it wouldn't surprise me that he went to the doctor and said, I'm feeling really, really down, and he's been given a whole course of antidepressants and probably feeling, not quite with it, and he'll probably turn up a bit later. That's what.
Well, I mean,
it can happen on those sort of drugs.
You reckon he's back on the?
Well, I think obviously he will have been needed to have some sort of treatment for the depression that will.
But he was doing these trips to Amsterdam over the last sort of couple of months and spending a bit of time in those coffee shops. Do you reckon he's back on the brownies again?
Well, I think.
I mean, if you're a Spurs fan, you would be tempted to, wouldn't you?
Well, throughout the whole season, really, if you were a Spurs fan.
Yeah. Well, he might walk through that door at some stage this evening. Let's hope he does. He's probably listening in the car at the moment, actually, because I know he's on the road.
It's probably Prozac, to be honest. I think it's beyond the old space cake from Amsterdam.
Well, I've got to tell you, if that works for him, I'll have some of it.
You have to say, their season, unfortunately, ended on Wednesday night, Dominic.
Well, I've got to tell you, we've got a caller very early on in the show.
It's a very triumphant Bernie, to be honest.
But Bernie, well, it isn't Bernie, I don't think, but let's see who it is. Good evening, you're live on Talk Radio Europe.
Hello, it's John Dodd.
How are you?
I fly aeroplanes, I fix automatic gearboxes, I've got the most powerful car in the world, 27,000cc, but if you want to talk about Ferguson, I'm turning the bloody radio off. For Christ's sake, BBC have been non-stop about it, all during the day, all during the night.
Well, hang on, John. We're actually going to begin the show with Formula One, and we're going to leave Sir Alex Ferguson towards the end of the show, because I think he deserves at least 5 minutes this evening.
Oh, 5 minutes, no, four, go on.
John,
because,
John.
We all know, and also he's the head of a people who pay one man 270 grand a week plus extras, bloody Tabalard Rooney. Come on, they're never going to win this coming year. There's a lot of young blood come on. They're not winning this year or the next part of the next year, are they?
John, that car of yours, are you a bit of a boy racer, are you?
Me?
Yeah.
Understatement of the century, I would have thought. My 27,000cc car runs a quarter mile in 8 seconds, and that's faster than a Formula One car. But it doesn't go round the corners very well.
No, I should imagine. What sort of car is it that's 20?
It was a hand-built car many, many years ago. It's 43 years old now with a rolling chassis. Been on TV, and Top Gear loads of time. You can find it, John, John, Dodd, separate word, Dodd, D-O-D-D, separate word Beast, and you find it on Top Gear.
Now tell me, were you on Top Gear yourself, John? Were you?
Of course, yes.
So tell me, was it as difficult for us to get a word in edgeways as it might have been for Jeremy Clarkson?
Well, I was outsourced, also outside
they could
the
always
High
let you out,
Courts of
you see,
Justice in the Strand when Rolls-Royce sued me for calling it a Rolls-Royce.
John, you were in Fuengirola a couple of nights ago at about midnight, weren't you? I heard some engine roaring at some traffic lights. Was that you?
Yeah, I went to Estepona and I came back on the old road, but it wasn't that late at night, I'm sure, you know.
Come on, John, while we got you on the phone, let's talk serious stuff. Let's talk Formula One Spanish Grand Prix Round 5 of the Formula One World Championship this week, and I know you like that very much. The road show, the glitz and glamour of Formula One moves to Europe for the first time this season. Slightly different temperatures. They're going to be greeting the teams this week. Some new upgrades as well after not racing for 3 weeks, which have been brought to the factories. A hard compound tyre that Pirelli are bringing into this race as well. We're going to see a completely different race this week to what we have seen in the first 4 rounds, aren't we?
Well, I think so. I think you've got to watch the new blood. They're coming on, you know. I don't know. Which car are you referring to?
All of the cars.
Oh, well, after Vettel, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't like to say anything, you know, because Button, of course, he must never be underestimated. He's gone round every Formula One track so many times. He just sat there for 7 years with Honda, doing nothing. It gave him a good car. And not that Honda wasn't a good car, but I mean, it didn't win. But he does now. He got a good car, so you just don't know which way
well,
it's going to go now.
Don't overestimate Jenson Button, the McLarens this weekend. 12th quickest today in practice for Jenson Button, so they're well off the pace yet again, despite the upgrades which all the teams have brought this weekend. 952 78 4000. If you think more than just Sebastian Vettel for this weekend's race, please give us a ring in the studio. John, thanks very much for your call.
That's all right. Lovely programme. But let me give us warning about... I've forgotten his name already. Okay, take care.
Thanks, John.
All right. Bye.
Well, Dominic, I mean, in regards to the McLarens, Jenson Button himself has said today that McLaren, in his own words, are still a hell of a long way off the pace.
Absolutely, and we've got another caller on the line, Rich, if you don't mind me bringing you in. Good evening, you're live on Talk Radio Europe. This is Formula One on the Friday Night Sports Bar.
Evening, Dom. Jonathan here.
How are you, Jonathan?
I'm good. Yourself?
Not too bad. No doubt you've been sitting in your armchair today watching a little bit of free practice from Barcelona.
No, I'm going to do that in a half an hour, I think.
I don't know if you were listening in. I was just talking there to John, who rang in earlier. Different conditions, different track temperatures. The tyres will have to be managed, of course, as we know, the Pirelli ones. But I think they're probably going to last a little bit longer than they have done in Bahrain previously, in Malaysia, because of the track temperatures.
Well, keep your money on Vettel, is my opinion.
Well, Sebastian Vettel was quickest this afternoon, actually. In fact, overall today, he was the quickest in free practice. The Ferrari's going quickest in the morning in some slightly wet conditions as well. But we also know that Sebastian Vettel is the championship leader at the moment on 77 points.
Well, he's got the best package at the moment. But Alonso will be there somewhere, near or nearabouts.
And Mark Webber's Red Bull coming home third quickest today, which again suggests exactly what you said. The Red Bulls are providing the right package yet again.
At the moment, yeah.
And you're not going to look any further? I mean, I know you've mentioned in the past you're hoping for Fernando Alonso, but you're not looking any further than the Red Bulls?
Not really. That's if I was a betting man, I'd put it all on Vettel.
Jonathan, we've got another caller on the line, so just bear with me 1 second. We're going to see if we can bring you both in at the same time.
Okay, sure.
Good evening. Hang on, let's see if we can bring you in. Good evening, you're live on Talk Radio. No, that's you, Jonathan, isn't it? So we're just bear with... Yeah, we got you on there. Good evening, you're live on Talk Radio Europe.
Hi, good evening, guys. Hans from Dania.
How are you doing?
Fine. The Spanish newspapers published today, well, the Marca at least, that Ferrari found between 0.6 and 0.8 seconds where they will be faster now in future. So that could be a little bit play a role in future. If they really found almost a second in those 3 weeks. I mean, I'm not supporting Alonso at all. I rather, as an author in a Red Bull, and I like Vettel, to be honest. But I wouldn't also mind Button or Nico Rosberg or even Raikkonen. I think it's always there. But 0.6 or 0.8 seconds in 3 weeks, you think that's possible?
I think it's possible, but I think, they mustn't miss the point that all the teams have also brought upgrades. So they might have found that in the pace of their own car. And also, is that a one-lap time or is that a race distance time as well that needs to be considered? But also, the other teams as well have also brought probably a 0.4 or 0.6 to the party as well from their own perspective. And just looking at the times this morning, it did seem the Ferraris were very quick, but so was Sebastian Vettel in the Red Bull package. So whatever they've brought to the upgrades as well.
Vettel was only 19th in the morning when I was reading in the internet at lunchtime.
Yeah, well, the latest update following the afternoon practice and overall on the day itself, Sebastian Vettel was 1.22.808, Fernando Alonso 1.22.825. So not much between them. Mark Webber coming there in third quickest at 1.22.891. Kimi Raikkonen, Felipe Massa also there 1.23. So the afternoon session in drier conditions as well, I might add, but bearing in mind.
The Formula 1 race I ever saw was in Barcelona, and this must be now 18 years or so ago, and that's quite good. And at the end of the start, where it goes up, you see quite a lot of the wreck trace, and I liked it, apart of the noise, but I never went to any other. Did you see Formula 1 live?
I've never ever seen Formula 1 live at all. Something I'd love very much to do.
Well, take some ear protection with you.
I believe
Barcelona,
so.
Because they have to brake before they go up the first bend, and it's just like explosions when you sit very close to the racetrack, which I would like it to. I was wondering if I should find a last-minute ticket or so for the race on Sunday. But also from Dania, it's about 4 hours to Barcelona.
Well, I tell you what, that's well worth the trip if you can get the ticket. But just stay on the line if you can for a second. We've got a gentleman that's on the other call, on the other line as well.
I hang up.
Okay.
Have a good night, bye.
Thanks very much indeed for your call. Much obliged. Jonathan, the gentleman that's just called, did you hear anything about the Ferrari package coming a 0.6 of a second quicker than they had been previously in this season?
Well, I think Friday is notoriously meaningless. Tomorrow we'll see who's fast and who's not. I would think just for PR reasons, Fernando Alonso would have been sent out with no fuel and, made a time to please the Spanish, basically. But tomorrow we'll see who to. But I think he'll be up there in the top. I was interested. You confessed you've not seen a Formula 1 race.
I have. I've seen many Formula 1 races, even from a young kid. My father used to love it very much. We used to watch it in South Africa, but I've never been fortunate enough to be there live. No.
My first one I saw in 1953. My father took me to Silverstone, and Fangio and Gonzalez and Moss were there, and the whole kit and caboodle. Yeah. So there you go.
Well, Richard's been to a couple of interesting races. In fact, one in Monaco, actually, didn't you?
Yeah, I was at the Monaco Grand Prix in 1989. I was invited to watch it from a boat in the harbour. It was a really amazing occasion. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and also went to Silverstone many years ago. But in regards to the whole buzz with the Monaco Grand Prix, it's just, you have to go and experience it, I think, once in your life.
I disagree with you, Richard.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I did go a couple of times, and the last time was in a friend's apartment on the hill going up, and the noise is just terrible, and we just ended up watching it on TV and eating all the good food that had been prepared.
And no doubt sipping on the fine champagne as well.
Yeah, loads of that.
Well, let's just bring some of the listeners up to speed. I mean, the Grand Prix... Sorry, Rich, did you want to add something to that?
Don't you think, though, Jonathan, just the whole weekend whilst you're in Monaco for the Grand Prix, it's just a really great occasion, and I don't know, you go to the clubs at night and there's a real buzz and...
I don't know. I was there in '64, and the Tip Top Bar was the place to go after the racing had finished. But it's also wearying, really. No, not my scene.
It certainly was your scene, though, wasn't it, Rich?
Yeah, well, it always used to coincide with the Cannes Film Festival.
And that's true. That's correct.
You know, and so there was a real sort of star-studded quality about it. And unfortunately, they changed the calendar, so that's no longer the case. And I think that's a real pity, because it really just, in those days, did add to it. Yeah.
I think they do it so well on TV now that you just don't need to go there.
Well, you certainly get to see the whole race on television. I mean, rather than just...
Well, you get the replays of anything interesting and all of that.
You know, whereas, I mean, very often, I mean, you're just seeing cars flash past you.
Yeah, and it's one corner, you know, that's where you are.
Yeah, that's why the harbour's quite good, though, because you get to see the sort of, you know, slightly more of the action. And you're going slightly slower.
I would like to go to, say, the Motor Grand Prix at Jerez in a camper van. You know, get there on Thursday and leave a complete wreck on Tuesday.
Also, Brands Hatch, though, is a great... I saw the bike Grand Prix there in 91, I think, with the Superbikes when Norton won. And that's a great track, because if you're up in the grandstand, you can see the whole action from where you are.
Yeah, the small track, you can. Yeah, my father used to take me there when I was a kid in the 1950s, and they used to race these 500cc Formula 3 cars, and you'd get like 20 races in a day. It was brilliant. Yeah, go ahead.
Gentlemen, just turning our attention, if we may, to this weekend. You've mentioned Sebastian Vettel, but need I remind you that last year at this race, there was a massive surprise winner in the Williams of Pastor Maldonado. Do you think that could be repeated again this week?
Not a chance, Dominic.
I don't think there's a hope in hell, no.
You don't think returning to Europe with the different conditions, and I'm not saying Pastor Maldonado or Williams, but maybe a Force India who have shown some very good pace in the early part of the season, certainly better than they've had in the best season they've had ever so far. They could be a surprise package or even get a podium finish?
No, Dominic, they've had a very troubled start to the season, and their own upgrade package really isn't cutting it. And you only have to look at today's practice, and they're well down. And you know, the thing is, a lot of the smaller teams are really focusing on 2014, where the new Formula 1 regulations come in. You know, and so a lot of people are saying that this season is a bit of an anomaly, really. You know, with a lot of people taking their cars from last year and, you know, revising them and adapting them, whereas a lot of the budget and revenue for the design of and development of the new cars has all gone into adhering to the new regulations in 2014.
What do you make of that, Jonathan?
Well, I don't know. If Williams brought out last year's car, they'd probably be doing better than they're doing now.
You think so? And just maybe next season in a Williams could be Susie Wolff driving in her Formula 1 debut season, and she could actually win in Barcelona or sometime next season, and that would certainly quite silence you, wouldn't it, Rich?
Well, I think that's a bit fantastical, to be honest. But I'll tell you what might happen, Dominic, is that I can see Kimi Räikkönen going to Red Bull. And there has been
very much so. Yeah, very much so.
There has been talk about this.
Very much so.
And certainly, I mean, I think the technical director of Lotus announced his departure this week, at the beginning of this week. And, you know, you'd have to say, you know, what does he know about the car that has, you know, caused him to hand in his notice at this stage of the season?
Sure, very much so.
It really doesn't augur well, I think, for Lotus, certainly for next season.
Jonathan, anything else you might want to add before we say goodbye to you?
Not really. I could talk more sense tomorrow or Monday.
Well, listen, we'll be discussing the race on Monday evening. Thanks very much indeed for tuning in, and thanks for your call this evening.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers, Jonathan. Just a quick reminder to all your listeners, it's the 53rd occasion that the Spanish Grand Prix has been held. It was first held in 1913. Michael Schumacher has won there on the most occasions with 6 wins. Ferrari with 11 wins there. The likes of Sir Jackie Stewart, a 3-times winner. Nigel Mansell, a 3-times winner. Mika Häkkinen. Kimi Räikkönen is on that list as well, a twice winner there. He could very well be a threat again tomorrow, or certainly over the weekend, Rich.
Well, I mean, he's such a great character and a great racing driver, Kimi Räikkönen. And, you know, certainly, I mean, the Lotuses have shown that, you know, they can compete with the Red Bulls and the Ferraris this season. You know, and, you know, and again, I mean, you know, the great pity is, I mean, we've talked about this before, but, you know, I was reading today how, you know, Mercedes are going to have to reduce their race competitiveness, you know, in other words, their speed, you know, in order to preserve their tyres. And, you know, I think there has to be something done about this, Dominic, because, you know, you're having a team that could be highly competitive in each race, but having to hold back, and we've already seen that. You know, we were hoping that the new tyres that were going to be introduced for the European round of races we're going to be a little harder wearing.
Well, we will see. There's a hard compound tyre that is coming in, but all the press words coming from the drivers is about managing their tyres ahead of every single race at the moment.
Yeah, and I just think it's become too much of a feature of the of Grand Prix. I really do, especially when it's you've got teams who could be competing and going very quickly. You're having to hold back, and as I said, we've seen that in 2 or 3 Grand Prix already.
Well, that's round 5 of the Formula One World Championship, which has already begun free practice. Third free practice tomorrow morning, qualifying tomorrow, race on Sunday. Quick reminder of those championship standings. Sebastian Vettel on 77, Kimi Raikkonen in second place on 67, Lewis Hamilton there on 50, Fernando Alonso 47, Mark Webber 32, Felipe Massa 30, Romain Grosjean 26. Those are your top 7 there. And just a quick reminder on what happened today in free practice. Fernando Alonso and Felipe Massa were quickest in the morning, but overall on the day it was Sebastian Vettel in his Red Bull, Fernando Alonso in second, Mark Webber in third. Not great news for the McLarens, unfortunately. 12th and 13th, Jenson Button and Sergio Perez there. The 2 Mercedes of Hamilton and Rosberg in 6th and 7th overall. We know they've got very good pace over one lap. It's just about the rear tyres where they seem to be having a few problems over the race distance there. But all will be...
And it is going to be dry conditions as well.
It is going to be dry conditions.
Sunny and overcast. So.
And all will be revealed certainly on Sunday afternoon at one stage. But a MotoGP news to give you, which is quite interesting for you fans out there. They hope to add a Brazilian race and more Asian races to the calendar after Argentina, which does return next season. Spain and the United States seem likely to lose rounds there, 2 rounds in the United States. And I think there's 2 here in Spain, up in Aragon and Jerez as well. Argentina last hosted a motorcycle Grand Prix in Buenos Aires in 1999. It was due to be on the calendar this season, but unfortunately the race was struck off as a row between Spain and Argentina over the nationalisation of Argentine interests of all Spanish oil, Repsol, which came into the whole thing. The teams are due there to test in July, and Brazil has not been on the race calendar since 1992, and the proposal is to host one at Interlagos, which of course is where the last race of the Formula One season begins. So some interesting news there for MotoGP fans. Rich, we're going to move on to a little bit of rugby, because in about 5 minutes' time we get on former European Cup winner, Aston Villa European Cup winner from 1982. Gary Shaw will be joining us very briefly on the line, but it's a big weekend of rugby in the Aviva Premiership and the Rainbow Pro 12 Direct. It's semi-final time. You've got the Leicester Tigers hosting Harlequins and Saracens hosting the Northampton Saints. But let's talk very briefly about Leicester Tigers versus Harlequins. They've won their last 12 semi-final matches in all competitions since Wasps beat them in 22-17 at the Millennium Stadium all the way back in 2006. It's their 4th successive Premiership semi-final. Can you see the defending champions going up to Leicester and coming away with a final spot?
Well, I think it's the other way around, Dom. I think Leicester have got to go to Saracens.
No. Leicester Tigers are hosting Harlequins this weekend.
Right. Okay. Sorry. My apologies.
Northampton Saints are going to Saracens.
Oh, sorry. Right. Yeah. That's absolutely correct. I think it's going to be a really, really close game, but you'd have to say that the momentum is with Leicester, and I think it's going to take some real character for the Harlequins squad to, turn around some of their past disappointments.
I've singled out some key players, on both sides. We've got obviously Manu Tuilagi, who's a British Lion, Toby Flood and Ben Youngs. I wouldn't ordinarily single out Toby Flood at international level, but certainly for Leicester and his halfback combination with Ben Youngs, and you'll see the reason why I've targeted those. Julian Salvi, of course, Tom Croft, Jeff Parling, on the plane to Australia as well, and then for the Harlequins, Mike Brown, who's had a wonderful season as well, I think, Mike Brown. But then you've got Nick Evans and Danny Kerr. Nick Evans has been all that's been good about Harlequins for the last couple of seasons. So you've got those 2 halfback combinations which are going to be key.
Well, when you look at Nick Evans, he was very, very unlucky. He's the Kiwi player, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, and people, when Dan Carter was injured and then the stand-ins, the replacement was injured in the World Cup as well. A lot of people were saying that, Nick Evans, should have got the berth because of his, superb form that he's shown in British rugby, in English rugby. He didn't, but he is a very, very fine player, Dominic, and has been absolutely instrumental in the success that they've enjoyed over the last few seasons. Because let's not forget, it was only a few years ago when we had the whole Bloodgate.
Absolutely, of course, yeah.
And Harlequins before that were relegated. And
the other semi-final, Saracens, 2011 winners of the Aviva Premiership against Northampton Saints. Alex Good, Chris Ashton, who's underperformed completely for me. Owen Farrell coming in at centre for this particular game. Charlie Hodgson taking up the number 10 position. Schalk Brits at number 2, fantastic performer for me. And then you look at the other side, Tom Wood, Dylan Hartley, the captain, and Courtney Lawes as well. That, for me, is quite an even matchup.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think Saracens will have the edge up front in the pack. And I think they'll secure more possession. And Charlie Hodgson certainly offers, far more interesting attacking lines. And, generally his offensive game is far more creative than Owen Farrell. Who's a bit of a one-dimensional standoff, to be honest.
Your winner for that game?
Unfortunately, you've got to go Saracens
again with the home advantage.
Yeah, but the thing is that they play very attractive rugby, Northampton Saints, and I'd like to see them go through, but I don't think they will.
And the Pro 12 direct, Ulster versus Llanelli Scarlets in the one there. And then, of course, the second one, you've got Leinster versus the Glasgow Warriors. Again, I'm inclined to go with home advantage.
Definitely, yeah.
And talking about home advantage, certainly Chelsea couldn't take advantage of that midweek against Tottenham Hotspur, but they're still in the box seat in third position. And Stuart Joseph has decided to grace us with his presence.
Tom, all Chelsea needed was a draw.
And that's sufficient, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hi, Stu. How are you doing?
Yeah, just been to the doctor. I had my shots. I'm okay now. Feel a little bit better.
On the antidepressants.
Yeah, on the antidepressants. He's giving me plenty of stuff to take the weekend, and I've got to monitor myself slowly.
Well, I hope he's given you a year's supply, Stu. Okay, because the same thing's going to happen next season.
Richard,
we're going to have all this hope. We've talked about it. Okay.
I heard this start.
This is going to be the year that Spurs finally do it. 12 months' time, we'll be sitting around there, and it'll be deja vu.
I'm going to find your corner. You're still only a point behind.
I listened to Richard. It's just ridiculous. This is far from over yet. Chelsea going to drop a point. Arsenal definitely going to drop a point. We win our 2 games. We've got every chance of that 4th place. No question. I don't know why you're making such a... let's face it, I'm going to be quite honest. Against Chelsea, for 70 minutes, we were not so much outplayed, but dominated. We had midfield, Huddleston and Parker couldn't stand up to what they had. But we stayed in the game, got an equaliser. Tremendous point. Tremendous. I wanted to win, obviously. It would have been all over by now.
One thing I think you'd have to acknowledge is Spurs showed a lot of character in that game.
Absolutely. That comes from the manager.
Something that you don't normally associate with.
And Gareth Bale...
that's unfair, Richard.
And Gareth Bale did not score the winner.
Gareth Bale had a shocking game. He didn't do anything. That's why you say we're a one-man team. It showed we're not a one-man team.
Well, Tom Huddleston had a shocker for you.
Terrible. Terrible. He was yards behind the pace.
Gentlemen.
Well, he's normally selected for his passing ability.
He might be able to pass, but you can't put him in midfield against the midfield like Chelsea's. Listen, the manager did what he did. We had Dembele was out, so he didn't have many options.
You were lucky that Adebayor probably had his best ever
Tremendous. What a goal. What a goal.
I thought his all-round play was very good.
Tremendous. He had a great game.
Gentlemen, we have to go to a break because we've got to get a 1982 European Cup winner, Gary Shaw, who certainly wasn't part of a one-man team. He's going to be joining us on the line after these messages. Stay tuned.
Dribbles it past Mozzarella and loses it to Beefy. Beefy runs with it, goes on the counter-attack of Beefy and Beefy scores and the crowd goes wild.
It's the Friday Sports Bar on Talk Radio Europe with Dom Aldworth.
Well, for those of you that have been tuning into the show for the last 3 to 4 weeks, every Friday you would have heard a host of former football Europe legends, actually Aston Villa legends, European Cup winners from 1982, and the reason why we've had all these Gordon Cowans, Ken McNaught, Stevie Staunton as well, former Liverpool and Republic of Ireland legend, because there's a very big golf day coming up on the 26th of May, hosted by Steve himself for the Stephen Staunton Foundation. And without further ado, let's bring on another Aston Villa European Cup winning legend, and that's Gary Shaw, who joins us on the phone this evening. Gary, good evening and welcome to the Friday Night Sports Bar.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, how you doing? Okay?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Gary. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. And let's just, we're here to remind the listeners exactly why you're coming down, not on the 26th, that's the day of the big golf and dinner event, but you guys are going to be down a couple of days earlier. Just tell the listeners out there why you're coming down and what's it in aid of.
where we're coming down for a real special event for the Golf Day for Steve Staunton's Foundation, for Children's Cancer, Great Ormond Street. So it's going to be, hopefully, a big, great day, and lots of people there, lots of famous faces and stuff. And that day we found out the weather. I'm sure I don't think it'll be full weather down there, but it's all for a good cause. And it's great because now through Kevin McNaught, we've recently set up a new sort of arm really of ex-Villa players. So it's interesting. I've done quite a fair bit for them, this year so far. So I'm part of that and willing to support this good cause. So it'll be a great event.
I think we had Ken on. I think Ken's got very much to do with looking after all the ex-players. Is that correct?
Yeah, Ken's really set up. There is like a Villa Former Players Association now, previous as well, run by Neil Rioch. But Ken, who was working with Neil Rioch, has set up another group really, which is the Lions and Legends group, which basically consists of the European Cup winning side. Who are supporting Ken in that and various charities that we do here in Birmingham and the West Midlands, different golf days and sort of after dinner speaking and stuff like that. Myself and Gordon and Tony Morley have been quite active really in the last few months here in Birmingham. And, this golf day is, I think it's the inaugural one for Steve Staunton and for the Children's Cancer Great Ormond, but hopefully it'll be a regular event on a yearly basis, so should be great.
And Gary, a host of your teammates from 82, from that magnificent win in 82, are going to be down here.
Yeah.
It's also the day after the Champions League final, so it's almost like an anniversary for all of you guys following that magnificent win all those years ago.
Yeah, I think if I'm right in saying it is on the 26th of May, which was actually the day that we won it in Rotterdam in 1982. I'm sure it was the 26th of May. And the Champions League final is previously on the day before, on the Saturday. So, I think arrived on the Wednesday prior to that. So I think we've got a few events going on around the area, down Marbella and stuff, and Port of Venus. So I think we'll be fairly active prior to the golf down Sunday as well. So. I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't been down there for quite a number of years now as well. So I'm really looking forward to see how that area has actually changed and develops.
Gary, I've got a couple of gentlemen here in the studio, but one of them in particular who remembers your career very well, Stuart. He would like to ask you a question.
Okay. Yeah.
Hi, Gary. Just a football question. I wish you best of luck with the feature down here when you come down. But I saw in 1981 you won the Young Player of the Year, and then the following in 82 you were selected for the Preliminary World Cup squad, the Strong 40, but you didn't actually go. Was that a major disappointment for you?
Major disappointment? Well, really, Stuart, I was 21 at the time, and even though I couldn't have done much more really to sort of get myself into the 22, I felt, especially with Peter Wibb going as well, I thought, I played with him for 12, 18 months prior to that and built up a great relationship. But Ron Greenwood decided and Don Eyre decided that not to take me or Tony Morley. So, but by myself, at that point I was just like coming through. Coming through, I won the league and won the European Cup, so I couldn't have done much more. But I was only 21, so in terms of age, and there was a lot of good strikers in front of me, and like Sir Keegan, Trevor Francis, Woodcock, Mariner, who were there, established in the England squad. And so I was disappointed. But at the age of 21, I felt that it was a good achievement to get in the squad of the 40. But I was more disappointed really for Tony Morley at the time, because he was probably 6 or 7 years older than me, and he was heartbroken really. He took it really badly, the fact that Don Aaron Greenwood took Graham Ricks instead of Tony, who, the only person representative of our squad, Villa squad from 81 and 82 was Peter Wibb. And, the fact that they took Keegan, and I had to sit home, watching the England team board the playing with Kevin Keegan's arm in a sling, and they only played 10 or 15 minutes at the end against Spain, I think it was, and I was, kicking my heels back in Birmingham, watching it all going on, and I scored, 20-odd goals that year, and couldn't sort of get into the England side. So, from a personal point of view, I couldn't have done much more, but I felt that, in time I would have broke through to the England side, but, it never materialised. Unfortunately, they got injured the following season, which was really serious. So,
But Tony Morley was one of the finest wingers I ever saw during that particular time. The guy was unstoppable when he was on fire.
Well, Tony was, he was a goal-scoring winger, wasn't he? 2-footed, he was very direct, very quick, but I think Don Howe had a major influence on the squad that got selected for Spain in '82, and he obviously sided, although Tony was involved in the home international games and the build-up, even appearing on Top of the Pops as well for the bloody World Cup record, but, he never, which I rib him about, but, they decided to go with Graham Rix, which Don Howe knew about, but, there was, we, as I say, as a group and the England players that were available for selection for that World Cup squad, we couldn't have done much more. I mean, look at Dennis Mortimer, great captain, Kenny Swain, all should have really gained England selection, and never did.
Sorry, no, it was a tremendous team then. I just wanted to ask you one last thing. When you had your knee injury, I read that when you went down, something clicked, you felt something go. Did you know straight away it was serious?
Well, I knew there was something serious, from the pain that I experienced, about 20 minutes to go at Nottingham Forest, I had problems. I had problems as a kid anyway with my knees and, fluid on my knee and playing too much sport, stuff like that as a kid. So, and I was having numerous injections, for a fluid problem on my knee. So I realised it was, it was only a matter of time, and it actually went in a game against Nottingham Forest. And Ian Boyle was involved, but it wasn't, wasn't really his fault. It was going to go anyway. It was going to sort of manifest into problems, and it ended up like it was a cartilage problem that really developed into something more sinister after that. I had 4 operations after that in 12 months, which effectively killed a very promising career, really. Yeah.
Gary, Dom here, I know you're in the middle of some engagements there, so we're going to let you get back to those and enjoy your evening. But more importantly, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we really look forward to welcoming you and all the lads in a couple of weeks, barely a couple of weeks' time, down here on the Costa del Sol. Many thanks for your time this evening.
Okay, Dom, it's been a pleasure. Cheers.
Cheers, Gary.
Bye-bye.
It's the Friday Sports Bar with Dom Ordworth on Talk Radio Europe.
European Cup winning Gary Shaw there from 1982 in that Aston Villa team. And guys, don't forget, I mean, Gary's coming down here alongside most of the team from 1982. Gordon Cowans, Steve Staunton, who wasn't part of that team, but we know Steve's credentials. Ken McNaught, who was on the show, and a host more. Niall Quinn's going to be, maybe Big Ron Atkinson as well. You guys can play golf and have a fantastic day with all of them, rub shoulders with them, listen to all them marvellous stories on the 26th of May. There's still a few teams available that you guys can get involved in. 1,425 euros for the team. That's 4 people. That includes your round of golf at Marbella Golf Course, as well as dinner at Villa Tiberia down in Marbella. Sandro and his team, they always look after people fantastically well there. Plenty going on in the dinner as well. An auction, some live music going on. I think Bill Padley, Talk Radio Europe's own Bill Padley, and his lovely wife Karen will be playing there as well, amongst a host of other musicians. It really is going to be a splendid evening. So please, guys, get yourself. If you don't want to play the golf, you can do the dinner at only 95 euros as well. Lots of prizes up for grabs. It really is going to be a smashing day. So if you're thinking about it, get a team together. And how you can get involved is you can look at the Talk Radio Europe website under charities, and the banner is there with all the necessary contact details. Or I will give them to you at the moment as well. You want to get in touch with Johnny Martin, either via his wife's email, which is zoe.martin1@btinternet.com. That's zoe.martin1@btinternet.com. Or you can ring him direct as well on his English phone, which is +44 7818 003695. +44 7818 003695. Or look at the Talk Radio Europe website. The details are there. Or get in touch with Talk Radio Europe and ask for my details, and I'll certainly put you in touch with Johnny. But it's going to be one of the biggest golfing events on this coast this summer, without question. The Steve Staunton Foundation, with a host of former players as well. So please, get yourself in there. Only a few teams left as well. Should we talk a little bit about one of the greatest managers the world has ever seen? Has finally moved on after almost 27 years, over 26 years, 49 trophies in his managerial career. That's almost as much as Real Madrid have won in their history. Sir Alex Ferguson finally bows out of the game, certainly right at the top of his game as well, guys.
so much has been said and so well deserved. And I want to bring something to your attention, whether you boys know or not. But he's been manager for about 27 years, 28 years at Manchester United. How many managers do you think Real Madrid have had in that time?
Oh, 20, 27 or 28?
27. How many do you think Inter have had? Inter Milan?
Oh, more than that, maybe?
19. Chelsea 18. Bayern 14. I mean, that's how incredible this guy is. He's rebuilt 5 teams over that period of time. He's won all these honours, all these championships. He's run Manchester United. I grew up with Matt Busby and the Busby Babes, when they had that tragic accident in 58.
I think you grew up before that, didn't you?
I grew up before that, but I remember
okay.
58. No, seriously, I remember the tragedy, and I remember being in tears coming home from school and just being beside myself. And to watch Manchester United, what's happened since then, I know they had managers between Busby and Fergie, but to see what Fergie took on and what he's done over the period of time, you can't take anything away from him. He is absolutely, I'll never see a manager in my time like this man.
Well, I mean, the facts speak for themselves, don't they? I mean, let's look at his record.
And also, can I just tell you, he's won the number of matches that he's done. He's 894 matches, which is incredible that he's actually won as a United boss. They've drawn 337, only lost 267. I mean, the ratio there is incredible.
But the thing is, I mean, he's one of the few managers who actually makes a difference. And, if you think when they won the title 2 years ago, they won it with an inferior squad, really, to their closest competitors. And at the time, people were saying, they've won it purely because of him.
Well, I reckon when you're going at half-time and things aren't going quite well, he sits you down and he tells you what he wants and what he needs. And these players, whoever's played for them, respect him. And also, as with Beckham and Rooney now, if you don't play the way he wants you to play, you don't care who you are. You can be the biggest name in the country. If you don't live up to what he wants from you, you can go.
It's a very hard act for David Moyes.
Well, I was going to say, very briefly, should we talk about his replacement? Do you think he is the right decision, the right person, criteria-wise, to what Manchester United as a PLC and a football club really need? Certainly following in the footsteps of Ferguson and his style of management.
Well, Richard made a good comment before, and he says he's worried about Moyes because he's not a winner as yet. And I won't take the words away from you, Richard. Obviously, you know how you feel, but I think there wasn't many players they can go for. They want someone who's long-term. The Mourinhos of this world, they do 2 or 3 years, they move on. This is a guy, I think, that's established with Everton for quite a while. I think he's got to settle in, win some trophies, and I think he can take the mantle over.
Well, the thing is, I think that, what they're doing is replicating exactly the same mistake they made in 1970-71 when Sir Matt Busby retired. And I think it was, first of all, was it Guinness? Was it Guinness? Guinness or something?
They had a lot of managers that didn't work.
And then it was Frank O'Farrell. And basically, I mean, these... I think Guinness was the reserve team manager, and I'm not too sure where O'Farrell came from. But they were basically there to do the bidding of Sir Matt Busby and were not able to impose their own authority on the team. And, with the setup as it's been described in the press with Ferguson and Moyes, you still get very much the impression that, Ferguson is going to be up there in the boardroom pulling all the strings. And that in itself, I think, is going to undermine David Moyes and make it even more...
Yeah, but do you think Jose Mourinho wouldn't have stood for that, of course, but maybe David Moyes can operate like that?
Well, I don't think that any manager really can operate like that, because if you're the manager, you're the head honcho, Dom. It's not somebody upstairs who you are answering to, who might have a better idea. You are the man, and that's why I think that they should have gone for a stronger character like Mourinho, who would have been able to introduce or bring top-quality international players to the club. And I don't really see that happening with Moyes until he's got some sort of proven track record as a winner at Man United. And, as we've heard, I mean, Lewandowski is almost certainly going to Bayern, whereas if Ferguson was staying there, I think he would have gone to Man United.
Fair point. Only time will tell, Stu. We've got a couple of minutes left, and we've got Premiership matches coming up, and certainly Spurs, and an FA Cup as well, but Spurs really, they need some points.
Well, it's very simple. Spurs have to win both their matches to have any chance of finishing fourth. It really is as simple as that. And we're in everyone else's hands. We're going to hope Chelsea, and particularly Arsenal, slip up. What will happen, we'll know in 8 days, 10 days' time. But I've still got to be confident. I think the boys have done absolutely tremendous this year. We haven't got the money of any of the clubs above us, and I think we've done tremendous, and I'll be terribly disappointed if we don't do it.
But, Dominic, I have to say, I think it's ridiculous that we're talking about, the end-of-season drama of relegation and promotion into the, into the Champions League, when, at the same time, it's the FA Cup tomorrow. And whosever decision it was to move the FA Cup, further forward in the calendar, I think they need sacking, because all they've done is devalue the FA Cup further. It should be the end of season showpiece.
But that's been happening now for a number of years, isn't it?
I'm going to be very brief. Do you know, years and years and years ago, the Friday night, there was always England v Young England played at Highbury. They played it to fetch, because everyone came up from the countries for their finals, and they always had this. You made that weekend into cup final weekend. The TV started at 9 o'clock, how they got there, how they didn't get there.
Fantastic,
it's all gone.
wasn't it?
You've lost the whole feel of this cup final, and it's so disappointing.
And the thing is, for the actual fans who are travelling down to Wembley to go and see the match, they've now moved the kick-off to 5:15. So if it goes to extra time and penalties, a lot of those people are not even going to be able to get the train back up north. But I think it's an absolute.
Well, this is why these clubs are putting out secondary teams when they start the first, second, third round. They're just not bothering.
Yeah, and it's such an important match, and you'd have to say, look at Wigan. Are they going to play a weakened team, knowing that the financial rewards of staying in the Premiership are so much higher? When they've got such a crucial fixture against Arsenal a few days later.
No, they go for strength. If they win the cup final, they go into Europe.
Gentlemen,
as well.
That's all we have time for, I'm afraid. Thank you very much, as usual, for joining me this evening. Thanks for coming in late. Thanks for listening.
Talk Radio Europe on the hour. Live international news from Sky.
Emergency crews have pulled a woman from the rubble of a Bangladesh